The first thing that's really significant is the titles on the invitation, not Queen Consort, Queen Camilla.
Well, I wasn't really surprised by this. I mean, any wife of a king is a queen. I mean, Henry VIII had quite a few of them, didn't he? And they were all called queen. But technically, of course, she's still queen consort, as the queen rightly, the last Queen Elizabeth II rightly said she would be, as was Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, Queen Mary, and Queen Alexandra. All were queen consorts because effectively she's not a queen regnant. She'll never reign. She's there to support the king. So it's the title's right, but in effect the title hasn't really changed. It's seamless. All wives of kings, with the exception of William and Mary, I think, who were joint monarchs, have been queen consort.
So, and this also reflects ultimately what Queen Elizabeth wanted.
Yes, but it's not really a matter for that. I think once the Queen Elizabeth had died. I mean, this is more to do with the status of the king. I mean, the king is there as the Queen regnant, as the king regnant, and therefore he is the main the sovereign. So therefore, if we start to taking away the title of his wife, it's like Mrs. Jobson being not Mrs. Jobson, Mr. and Mrs. Jobson. The fact is that is the title for the king's wife. You don't have, as with say, I don't know, Gerald Ford's wife, just because she was divorced, her being called the second lady. That this is the title for the king's wife. She'll always be Queen Consort. Elizabeth II was correct, but she'll be known as Queen Camilla, as were the previous Queen Consorts: Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, Mary, and Alexandra.
We've got some more details of what we can actually expect. Just a month left to prepare. What's the day itself going to look like?
Well, I think it depends on who you are. Most of us, I think, will be watching this on the television, and the good thing will be that the pubs are open till 1 o'clock in the morning. Maybe a bank holiday.
Yes.
So I think that's probably the way most people will see it if they're interested. Others, of course, there'll be a limited number of people that will be in the Abbey itself, 2,000 odd, down from 8,000 from the last coronation of Queen Elizabeth II. But there will be all the pomp and pageantry. I don't think it'll be seamless. We'll have the procession when the king will arrive, and then the procession back to the palace. So there'll be routes that will be released for people who are so inclined to stay overnight, probably to get the best vantage points as they did through the Jubilee celebration. So I think in terms of the international aspect of it, and the fact that people want those loyal fans want to just have a ringside seat to history, it'll be pretty similar to what has gone before in terms of those big events, jubilees and things like that. There's a 4-day long weekend, and I'm sure people who choose not to go away on that weekend will have a good time in the UK.
Yes, we're very unlikely to be one of the 2,000 people inside for the ceremony, but we don't
Oh, I might
quite.
be. No, I might be. I might get my little ticket, which is, as the journalists get. But I doubt I'll be doing it because I'll probably be commentating for Good Morning America, so I'll have to turn it down.
I'm sure you'll be busy, but I mean, sort of me and whoever might be listening at home probably won't be sat in there. But we don't quite know who that guest list of 2,000 people are going to be. We know, for example, that President Joe Biden isn't coming, but his wife is, and some question marks about which members of the family are going to be there.
Yeah, I think that it's worth stating that there wasn't a president at the Queen's coronation. The representation is exactly right. I mean, you've got to remember when a president comes to town, the focus as far as the Americans and the world is on him, in terms of security, and that just is one extra headache that I don't think will be helpful for Scotland Yard that weekend. You'll be rather busy. As for members of the family, I'm pretty much sure that most of the immediate family will be there. What's interesting, I think, is little George, Prince George, is going to have an active role as page to his grandfather, which is a lovely element of continuity there. But he'll be the youngest of the pages, so a lot of responsibility on his little shoulders. I always thought he always looks so deep and lost in thought at these occasions, and no wonder why. But I'm sure his dad, Prince William, the Prince of Wales, will talk to him and guide him through it, as will his grandfather.
And dare I say, Harry and Meghan, will they be there?
Well,
Yes,
all I would
deep
say
sigh.
there.
That is what most of us feel like. Oh,
I mean,
why are we talking about this?
I feel that's the element. I'm not deep sigh about them. I have no real, axe to grind against Harry and Meghan, despite what trolls accuse me of over the time. The reality is this is a focus on the king and his relationship with the people, and it's a service that is a state service, and so that's why it's important. Whether or not the Harry and Meghan, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex or California or whatever they are, and their children, the prince and princess, come, is I'm sure the king would love them to be there. They have been invited. They have been invited. It shouldn't really be about the second son or whether or not it's coming or whether it turns it into a show business event. I'm sure if it was the inauguration of a president, we wouldn't be that worried about whether his second son was there or not. So my feeling is that we're giving far too much attention to Harry and Meghan, and he's got a book out, as have I, and he's got to sell it, I suppose.
If you enjoyed that, there is plenty more. Join me, Rosie Wright, for Early Breakfast on Times Radio, Monday to Friday, 5 till 6 a.m.